Connor Hayes slid a check across the polished oak table toward me. The gesture was elegant, almost regal, like a king bestowing alms. "Ethan," he said, his voice smooth, "thanks for taking care of Juliana all these years." He leaned back slightly, his chin lifted, a look of pity mixed with undisguised superiority in his eyes as they swept over the button-down shirt she'd picked out for me. "Now I'm back." The number of zeros on the check made my vision swim. 7 figures. My heart skipped a beat. Not from anger. From pure, unadulterated joy. Thank God. It was finally happening. This idiot. He was actually thanking me? Did he have any idea what his version of taking care of really felt like? A highlight reel of my life flashed through my mind. The undeletable tracking app on my phone, a constant digital leash. The calming tea she'd bring me every night before bed, smiling sweetly as I drank the bitter, strangely flavored brew. The late-night FaceTime calls when I was on a business trip, not to talk, but so she could listen, making sure there wasn't the sound of second person breathing in my hotel room. That was Juliana. Beautiful, gentle Juliana, with a smile as pure as a Botticelli angel. And the same Juliana who had dragged me, inch by inch, into this invisible hell. For more than 2,000 days, I had played the part of the perfect husband. Attentive, loving, available at a moment's notice, a man with eyes only for her. I was losing my mind. And now, my savior had arrived. This self-important asshole, Connor Hayes, was here to claim his one true love. I had to fight the urge to grin like a madman. I summoned every muscle in my face, tried to construct a complex mask of humiliation battling with deep, repressed sorrow. My hand trembled just a little as I reached for that beautiful, rectangular piece of freedom. Closer, so close. "Ethan, honey, what are you two talking about? You look so serious." A voice like honey, slow and sweet, drifted from behind me. Juliana. My outstretched hand froze midair. The blood in my veins turned to ice. She glided to my side, trailing her signature scent of gardenias. She slipped her arm through mine, her fingers cool against my skin, even through the fabric of my shirt. Her grip was casual but firm, a reminder. Her eyes grazed the check on the table, a flicker of something unreadable in their depths. Then she looked up at Connor, her lips blooming into a flawless, dazzling smile. "Connor, it's been a long time. What important business are you and Ethan discussing?" A flicker of triumph crossed Connor's face, a smug satisfaction at having shown his power in front of me, the incumbent. "Nothing much," he said, trying for a casual tone. "Just thanking Ethan for how well he's looked after you." "You fool, you're still gloating. Can't you feel how tightly she's gripping my arm?" She was warning me. My body went rigid. I remember the incident with the new intern from marketing a few months back. She'd just been asking me a few extra questions about a project. That night, Juliana had picked up my phone, her voice terrifyingly calm. "Ethan, sweetie, who's this girl with the cute profile picture?" The next day, the intern requested a transfer to the satellite office in Denver. Reason unknown. Juliana picked up the check, tapping a perfectly manicured nail on the 7-figure number. Then she turned to me, her eyes curving in a lovely crescent, her voice syrupy sweet. "Ethan, if you need money, you just have to ask me." She tilted her head, leaning it against my stiff shoulder, and in a voice both innocent and cruel, declared her ownership. "After all, you're the one who manages our finances, aren't you?" The smile on Connor's face froze, then shattered. The silence in the restaurant was absolute. I could feel the warmth of Juliana's body pressed against mine, coiling around me like a cold-blooded snake. Connor's expression shifted from triumph to suspicion, finally settling on a look of pure, unadulterated scorn. He must think I was playing the pauper for her, trying to win her sympathy. "Are you kidding me? As if I'd dare." That secondary card she so generously let me manage sent a text alert straight to her phone for any purchase over $100. I took a deep breath. Act. I had to keep acting. It was my only way out. I looked at Connor, my eyes screaming a complex, silent script. The shame of being emasculated, the cowardice of a man who couldn't speak up, and a sliver of weary resignation that said, "See, it's not that I won't let go. It's that she won't." My lips parted, and I managed a perfectly pitched, hoarse whisper. "Juliana, The performance had to be complete. I reached out, not for the check, but to gently cover her hand that held it, as if to push it back toward Connor. My movement was full of manufactured reluctance and inner turmoil. Mr. Hayes, I appreciate the offer, but what Juliana and I have. It's not about money. Juliana watched my profile, silent, but I felt the grip on my arm relax just a fraction. Connor, of course, completely misread the scene. He scoffed, leaning forward and lowering his voice to a conspiratorial hiss. Ethan, if you have any self-respect, you'll stop clinging to her. Take the money. Walk away with some dignity. Dignity? I don't want dignity. I want to be free. In the exact moment that Juliana's brow furrowed at Connor's words and her attention shifted to him, I moved. Faster than a striking snake, my hand shot out, snatched the check from under her fingers, and tucked it neatly into the inside pocket of my blazer. The motion was smooth as silk, without a flicker of hesitation. The entire world seemed to go silent. Connor just stared, his jaw slack, utterly baffled by my switch from heartbroken husband to greedy opportunist in less than a second. I avoided Juliana's piercing, analytical gaze, grabbed my water glass, and took a long swallow to hide the fact that my heart was hammering against my ribs. Money secured. Step 1, complete. Now, I just had to make sure my savior Connor was fully, completely, and irrevocably committed to taking this beautiful, terrifying hot potato off my hands. Juliana didn't say a word. She just watched me for a long moment. Then, she reached out one of her slender, pale hands and, with her fingertips, gently smoothed the barely perceptible wrinkle my new check had made in my blazer. Her fingers lingered there for a second and tapped twice, lightly, a silent warning. A fine, cold sweat broke out across my back. The ride home was dead silent. The check burned a hole in my pocket. Juliana drove, her face a perfect, unreadable sculpture in the flashing neon lights of the city. She didn't ask about the check. That was so much worse than an interrogation. Ethan, her voice, when it finally came, was soft. What do you think of Connor? The million-dollar question. My life depended on the answer. My heart clenched. I couldn't say he was a bad guy. That would make me seem petty, breaking my noble, long-suffering character. And I definitely couldn't say he was a good guy. That would make her think I was trying to push her away, triggering her possessiveness. I had to walk the tightrope. I lowered my gaze, fiddling with the seatbelt buckle, and laced my voice with just the right amount of melancholy. He's a good man, from a good family, successful. I paused for a beat, summoning every ounce of acting ability I had, and added, with a touch of bittersweet magnanimity, you two. You be good together. Perfect. It showed my supposed heartbreak, made me look generous, and subtly endorsed their potential relationship. Juliana didn't answer right away. The only sound was the low hum of the engine. At a red light, she turned her head slowly and looked at me. Her eyes were clear, but they felt like an X-ray boring straight through to my soul. Then she smiled a slow, knowing smile. She reached out and traced my jawline with her fingertips. An intimate gesture, but her tone was pure ice. Ethan, she purred, a playful, chilling curiosity in her voice. It almost sounds like, you're trying to give me away. I didn't sleep a wink. Give me away. The words echoed in my head. Did she know? Or was she just testing me? I couldn't afford to be passive. I had to add some fuel to Connor's fire, get him to burn brighter, faster. The next afternoon, his first offensive arrived. 99 ridiculously cliché red roses, delivered to our apartment. Juliana signed for them with a polite smile. Then, right in front of me, she dumped the entire bouquet into the kitchen trash. Clean. Efficient. I don't like red roses, she explained to me, her tone patient, as if instructing a child. Good job. I screamed internally. But Connor, you moron, couldn't you have put in a little more effort? If I left it up to this idiot, it would take 100 years. I had to help him. That evening, I told her I was taking a shower and locked the bathroom door. I turned the water on full blast. From a loose tile behind the toilet, I retrieved my secret weapon, a cheap, prepaid burner phone. My heart pounded. I quickly typed out a text. The recipient was Connor's private number. He'd given me his business card yesterday. She hates roses. She loves blue irises. The language of a desperate love. Send. I immediately popped out the SIM card, snapped it in half, and flushed it down the toilet. The phone itself went into a Ziploc bag and back into its hiding place. Leaning against the cold tile, I let out a long breath. The seed was planted. The next day, an enormous, breathtaking bouquet of rare blue irises was delivered to Juliana's office. I, of course, was conveniently working from home and signed for the delivery notification. When Juliana came home that evening, she stopped dead in the hallway. Her eyes were fixed on the bouquet I'd placed on the coffee table. She stared at that deep, impossible blue for a long, long time. Her face was a blank mask. Then, she slowly turned her head, her gaze landing on me. It was a calm, placid look, and made my blood run cold. She gently touched one of the petals, the corner of her mouth twitching into a faint, unreadable smile. Blue irises. Ethan, how do you think the sender knew? This is the only flower I truly love. She knew. She absolutely knew. It wasn't a question. It was a declaration. I tossed and turned all night. Juliana's expression burned into my mind. The storm beneath the calm was the most terrifying thing in the world. The next day was Saturday. I decided to act as if everything was perfectly normal. In fact, I had to be even more attentive than usual. I woke up early and made her favorite breakfast, bacon, eggs, and oatmeal. She sat at the table, eating delicately, her expression serene. Ethan, it's such a beautiful day, she said, looking out the window. It really is. I agree, my mind racing. We haven't gone grocery shopping together in ages. She put down her spoon and looked at me, a hint of wistful expectation in her eyes. Let's go this afternoon, okay? The supermarket? Full of people. A perfect chance for Connor to stage a chance encounter. Of course, I said, smothering my excitement with a warm smile. The morning passed without incident. I almost started to think I had imagined her suspicion last night. In the afternoon, we drove to the huge Whole Foods a few miles away. I was pushing the cart, mentally composing a text to Connor to leak our location, when my phone buzzed. An unknown number. I instinctively moved to answer it. Juliana's hand gently closed over my wrist. Probably just a spam call, honey. She smiled, picking up a jar of artisanal jam. Can you check the sugar content on this for me? I bent my head to look at the label. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw her thumb tap her own phone screen. The incoming call notification on my phone vanished. The buzzing stopped. A chill shot up my spine, straight to the base of my skull. That wasn't a coincidence. She was intercepting my calls in real time. My head snapped up to look at her. She was still studying the jam jar, her profile serene and lovely, as if nothing had happened, as if it was all in my head. But I knew it wasn't. The realization hit me like a physical blow. All my secret moves, all my careful planning, were probably playing out on a screen for her. I was a puppet, thinking I was so clever, while she held every single string. She was letting me perform, watching me struggle, amused by my pathetic attempts to escape. After the store, we drove home. I carried the heavy bags to our front door, my mind a chaotic mess. I reached out automatically to press my thumb to the smart lock. Beep. Access denied. The cold, electronic voice echoed in the quiet hallway. I froze. I tried again. Beep. Access denied. What the hell? It worked just fine yesterday. Juliana came up behind me, gracefully extending her index finger and pressing it to the sensor. Beep. Access granted. The door clicked open. She stood in the doorway, the light from inside splitting her silhouette. She looked back at me, her smile so gentle it was suffocating. Oh, I forgot to tell you, Ethan. I updated the security permissions on the lock last night. From now on, you'll have to ask me for the code to get in. The door closed behind me. Click. A soft sound, like a jail cell locking. I stood in the foyer, still holding the groceries, as the warmth drained from my body. Permissions updated. 2 simple words that had just stripped me of the most basic freedom of all, the right to enter my own home. This place, my home for 7 years, had never felt more like what it truly was, a prison where I was a guest, allowed to stay only at the warden's pleasure. Juliana bent down and took my slippers from the shoe rack, placing them neatly at my feet, the perfect doting wife. Tired? Go wash up. I'll put these away. She took the bags from my hands, her fingertips brushing against my skin. Ice cold. I mechanically changed my shoes and walked into the living room, my eyes darting everywhere. Where else? Had she found the burner phone? Was she watching my panic right now on some hidden monitor? She made dinner. 3 courses, all my favorites, perfectly executed. She kept putting food on my plate, chatting about things we'd seen at the store, as if the incident at the door had never happened. Eat up, Ethan. You've gotten so thin lately. I looked at the mountain of food in my bowl, my stomach churning. It was suffocation. A gentle, loving suffocation. That night, I lay in bed, wide awake, staring at the ceiling. Juliana was beside me, her breathing even. She seemed to be asleep. I quietly slipped out of bed, needing to get some air in the study. The second my feet touched the floorboards, Ethan, her voice, thick with sleep, cut through the darkness. Where are you going? My palms were instantly slick with sweat. Thirsty. Just getting some water. Oh. She rolled over to face my side of the bed. Come back soon. I walked out of the bedroom, feeling her eyes on my back the entire way. In the study, I opened my laptop, just wanted to read the news to distract myself. The browser automatically opened to a strange, minimalist homepage. Family Hub. Scheduling and location services in the center of the screen was a blueprint of our apartment. A little icon with my face on it was located precisely in the box labeled study. Below, it was a system log. 11:23 p.m. Ethan Shaw entered study zone. I stared at the little icon of myself, a deep, primal cold spreading through me. It wasn't just the front door. It was the whole apartment. A transparent, digital cage. Every move I made was tracked in real time. The burner phone was no longer safe to use in the apartment. Ever. The next morning, I fled the apartment like it was on fire. Only at the office did I feel like I could breathe again. But the sense of urgency was crushing me. Time was running out. Juliana's net was tightening, and I had to get Connor to move faster. During my lunch break, I found a deserted corner of the small park next to my office building, making sure no one was around. Using my desk phone, I dialed Connor's number. Hello. His voice was as arrogant as ever. I kept my own voice low and spoke quickly. Connor, it's me. Ethan. No time to explain. Juliana doesn't care about your flashy gifts. She's attracted to people with a shared passion for the arts. There's a new private gallery that just opened on the west side. She has an appointment to see the exhibit tomorrow at 3 p.m. It's your best shot. Don't ask me how I know, and stop sending things to the apartment. I hung up before he could reply. My heart hammered against my ribs, my palms slick with sweat. This was a huge gamble. I was betting the last scraps of my freedom on it. If Connor screwed this up and mentioned me, if Juliana could somehow monitor my office phone, I couldn't let myself think about it. The afternoon was torture. I kept checking my phone, half expecting a call from her, or worse, to see her car pull up outside the building. But there was nothing. Utter silence. By the time I left work, nothing had happened. Could it be that it actually worked? I went home, my stomach in knots. I used the new 6-digit, single-use code Juliana had texted me that morning to open the door. She was on the living room sofa, flipping through an art magazine. She looked up when I came in and gave me a radiant smile. Ethan, you're home. She set the magazine down, her tone casual. I have an appointment to see a new gallery tomorrow afternoon. Will you come with me? I froze in my tracks. My blood ran backward. She knew. She had to know. The cover of the magazine she was holding was an advertisement for the exact gallery I'd told Connor about. How did she know? The office phone? Did Connor let it slip? Or was she tracking me in some other way I hadn't found yet? I looked into her clear, innocent eyes, and a terrifying chill seeped out from the very marrow of my bones. She stood up, walked over, and linked her arm through my rigid one, her voice a soft melody. I hear the collection is just magnificent. We should see it together. Just the two of us. Just the two of us. She was staking her claim and warning me not to try anything. All night, my mind spun. It felt like a dead end. I had to go to the gallery with her, right under her nose, with no way to signal Connor. Wait, under her nose? An incredibly risky, almost insane idea began to form in my mind. If she wanted to watch my every move, then I would give her a show she'd never forget. The next afternoon, I obediently accompanied Juliana to the gallery. It was quiet, elegant. Abstract paintings hung on stark white walls. Juliana held my arm, pretending to study the art, but I could feel that at least half of her attention was fixed on me. We stopped in front of a canvas exploding with violent color. This one's interesting, I said, feigning artistic contemplation while my eyes scanned the room. There he was, in a seating area diagonally across from us. Connor. He'd seen us and was just about to get up. It was now or never. I sucked in a sharp breath, my face draining of color. My hand flew to my stomach, and I doubled over slightly. Ugh! I let out a pained groan. Ethan? What's wrong? Juliana turned instantly, her voice laced with concern. My stomach. It's a sharp pain. I forced beads of sweat to my forehead, my voice weak. I think breakfast isn't sitting right. I put on an Oscar-worthy performance of a man in agony, barely able to stand. Let's go sit down over there. You just need a rest. I pointed to a small, empty seating area in the opposite direction of Connor. Juliana looked at me, a flicker of suspicion in her eyes. But my acting was flawless. Her brow furrowed. She supported me as we walked to the empty chairs. You sit here. Don't move, she commanded, helping me into a chair. I'll go get you some hot water. She was leaving and heading to a water cooler around a corner. A perfect blind spot. The moment she disappeared from view, the pained expression vanished from my face. I shot my head up, my gaze locking onto Connor. He was watching me, confused. In a series of lightning-fast, precise gestures, I did 3 things. I pointed in the direction Juliana had gone. She's gone. I made a come-here motion with my fingers. Get over here. Now. I mouthed 3 silent words. Men's room. Then, just as quickly, I collapsed back into my pain posture. My heart felt like it was going to explode. A few seconds later, Juliana returned with a cup of warm water. I sipped it, my performance ongoing. Feeling any better? She asked, her hand on my back. Yeah, a little. I nodded weakly. Just then, my phone vibrated in my pocket. A text. From Connor. It was a single character. It worked. He got the message. I suppressed a wave of manic glee and continued to play the invalid. Juliana, I still don't feel great. Can we just go home? I said, pressing my advantage. I had to get out of there. She studied me for a few long seconds, her eyes deep, as if weighing the authenticity of my pain. Finally, she nodded. All right, let's go home. She helped me up, and we left the gallery. She never once glanced in Connor's direction. But that didn't make me feel safe. It made me feel worse. She was too calm, abnormally calm. Back at the apartment, I collapsed weakly onto the bed. Juliana tucked me in, dimming the lights. You rest. I'll make you some congee to settle your stomach. She closed the bedroom door. I strained my ears, hearing the faint sounds of her washing rice in the kitchen. Everything seemed normal, but the knot of anxiety in my gut only tightened. Did she actually believe me? Half an hour later, she came in with a steaming bowl. I sat up and ate slowly while she sat on the edge of the bed, watching me in silence. The dim light from the bedside lamp cast long, strange shadows. Suddenly, she spoke, her voice soft. Ethan, did you see that one painting of the gallery today? The blue one, with the bird wrapped in all those chains. My spoon clattered against the bowl. That painting, I had seen it right before my attack. The title plaque had read, The Gilded Cage. Why was she bringing it up now? I steel myself. I think. I vaguely remember it. Juliana leaned closer. In the dim light, her eyes seemed to glow. I love that painting, she whispered, her voice strange, almost obsessive. That bird, it was bound by so many chains, but its eyes were still so bright, like it would never, ever give up. She reached out, her fingertips, still warm from the bowl, brushing against my cheek. Her gaze was intense, profound. Ethan, she said, you're just like that bird. After the gallery incident, Juliana's attitude toward Connor shifted. She stopped refusing his gifts. She would occasionally reply to his texts. When I casually mentioned a successful project Connor's company had just launched, she'd even hummed in agreement. Connor is definitely a sharp businessman. That simple acknowledgement was like a thunderclap. There was a chance. She was starting to see his value. The flame of hope, which had nearly been extinguished, roared back to life, hotter than ever. Connor clearly sensed this shift, too. His efforts intensified. Expensive jewelry, a custom-made gown, even pulling strings to land a major partnership for Juliana's company. He was a peacock in full display, showing off every glittering feather. And Juliana accepted it all. She wore the diamond earrings he sent her while trying on the couture dress in front of me. Ethan, what do you think? She spun around, the silk skirt flaring out. In the light, she was breathtaking. The diamonds in her ears cast cold, hard sparks. It's beautiful, I heard myself say, my voice dry. Inside, I was screaming, it's perfect. Connor, are you seeing this? Keep it up. Lock her down. That night, she went to his celebration dinner. She came home late, smelling faintly of champagne, but her eyes were perfectly clear. She walked over to where I was sitting on the sofa, leaned down, and studied my face like a work of art. Ethan, she murmured, her breath warm on my skin. You don't seem angry at all. My heart stopped. A test. It was another test. I dropped my gaze, my fingers curling into a fist. I forced my voice to sound defeated and small. I don't have the right to be angry. As long as you're happy. That's all that matters. She smiled. She reached out and ruffled my hair like she was petting a well-behaved dog. Good boy. She straightened up and walked toward the bedroom. Her voice floated back to me. Connor's taking me to see the site for the new development tomorrow. You're coming with us. There I was, the third wheel, sitting in the back of Connor's luxury sedan, watching them chat in the front seats. He was animated, pointing out landmarks, outlining the project's potential. Juliana nodded along, the picture of serene interest. They looked so disgustingly perfect together, and I was an invisible ghost in the back seat. Come on, Connor. Dazzle her. Show her you're the alpha, the one who deserves her. Make me look like the pathetic loser I'm pretending to be. The site was in a newly developed tech park. Connor eagerly opened Juliana's door, helping her out like a true gentleman. I followed a few steps behind. Just as Juliana stepped onto the curb, an electric scooter shot out from around a blind corner, moving at a terrifying speed, heading straight for her. Look out! Connor's reflexes were lightning fast. He lunged, yanking Juliana into his arms, a powerful, protective embrace. She let out a small gasp as she collided with his chest. The scooter zipped past, close enough to brush the back of Connor's jacket. It was over in a second. I was frozen to the spot, my heart at a dead stop. Not with fear for her, with elation. Hero saves the damsel, a gift from the gods. Connor, you magnificent bastard. Now, close the deal. Hold her. Tell her you'll always protect her. Connor held her tight. Juliana, are you okay? Are you hurt? She was leaning against him, her face pale with shock. She shook her head slightly, but her eyes traveled over his shoulder and locked directly onto mine. A steady, searching gaze that I couldn't decipher. The elation turned to ice in my stomach. What was she looking at? Why was she looking at me? Shouldn't she be melting in her hero's arms? Connor noticed her distraction and followed her gaze back to me, his own expression souring, as if blaming me for my inaction. I opened my mouth, but no sound came out. Juliana gently pushed herself away from Connor. She smoothed her hair and dress, her composure instantly restored. I'm fine. Thank you, Connor. Her tone was polite but distant. Then, she walked over to me. She reached out and gently brushed a stray leaf from my shoulder, a gesture of casual, unquestionable intimacy. Did that scare you? She asked, her voice soft. My throat was tight. I could only nod. She sighed softly. Let's go. She didn't return to Connor's side. She walked between us. The rest of the site tour was excruciatingly awkward. Connor was clearly upset, and Juliana seemed completely disengaged. The ride back was suffocatingly silent. After we dropped a sullen Connor at his office, it was just the two of us. She drove, staring straight ahead. Then very quietly she asked, Ethan, a moment ago, you wanted him to grab me, didn't you? She knew. She knew everything. My pathetic, desperate little plan was laid bare. A vast, suffocating fear seized me. I clenched my fists, my nails digging into my palms, my mind scrambling for a lie, any lie. No, I didn't. My voice was a useless croak. Juliana let out a soft, humorless laugh. Your eyes don't lie, Ethan. When he pulled me away, you weren't scared. You were excited. You were hopeful. She paused, and her next words were like shards of ice driven into my heart. You were hoping he would take me away from you. It was over. Everything was over. My entire act had crumbled to dust. She had always known. She had been watching me dance in the palm of her hand, amused by my delusion of escape. A bored god watching an ant struggle in a jar. The car stopped in front of our building. She didn't unlock the doors. The sky outside had turned a bruised purple. A storm was coming. Ethan, her voice was quiet, but carried an unnerving weight. I'm going to give you one last chance to choose. She turned to look at me, her eyes calm with the power of a judge about to deliver sentence. Go upstairs with me now. Or, then, very quietly, she asked, Finn, a moment ago, you wanted him to grab me, didn't you? Goad him. I looked up stunned. Was she letting me go? Was this a trick? She hit the button to unlock the doors. Click. The sound echoed in the silent car. Choose. She got out of the car without another glance at me and walked toward the building entrance, never looking back, leaving me alone with the storm about to break. Freedom. There it was, right in front of me, close enough to touch. I was breathing hard, my hand shaking as it hovered over the door handle. If I got out, I could be free of this hell forever. But the check was in the safe at home. My passport, my driver's license, everything was in her possession. I had nothing. Where could I possibly go? Boom! A crack of thunder split the sky, and the heavens opened up. Rain hammered against the car, instantly blurring the world outside. Through the downpour, I saw him, standing by the entrance to our complex, a lone figure under a black umbrella. Connor. He had followed us. Rain soaked the cuffs of his expensive trousers, but he stood perfectly still, his eyes fixed on the car. He was waiting. The rain was a frantic drumbeat on the roof. Connor was a black statue in the storm. Juliana was gone. Going to Connor meant war. Going upstairs meant temporary safety and giving up everything I'd worked for. No, I shoved the car door open. A blast of icy wind and rain hit me, soaking me to the bone in an instant. The shock cleared my head. I couldn't go back up there. That would be admitting defeat, proving to her that I couldn't survive outside her cage. All my suffering would have been for nothing. I ran out into the rain. Not toward Connor. I ran to the ATM at the corner. Rain blurred my vision. My hands shaking, I jammed my debit card into the slot and punched in my PIN. Balance, $352.78. My heart sank. What could I do with that? It wasn't even enough for a plane ticket out of this city. Without the check, without my ID, I was trapped. Ethan. Connor ran over, his umbrella covering my head. He looked at my pathetic, soaking state, his expression a mixture of confusion and pity. What? Did she kick you out? I looked up at him, rain or tears streaming down my face. I grabbed his arm like he was the last piece of driftwood in a flood. Help me, I rasped. Connor, you have to help me get that check and my ID. Please. He looked at me, and in his eyes I saw it. A flash of pity, yes, but also a flicker of satisfaction. He was seeing me at my absolute lowest. It fed his savior complex. Get in the car, he said, steering me toward his sedan. I didn't resist. My body was shaking with cold, but a fire was burning inside me. The plan had to move faster. Sitting in Connor's warm car, wrapped in a dry towel he kept in the back, I spun a story of half-truths. She found out that I wanted to leave. We had a huge fight. I looked at him, my eyes wild with a calculated desperation. Connor, she's vulnerable right now. This is when she needs you the most. This is your chance. Go to her, comfort her, win her over for good. Connor's eyes lit up. He saw the path to victory laid out before him. He clapped me on the shoulder. Don't worry, I've got this. He pulled out his phone and started typing. No doubt, a carefully worded text to Juliana, full of concern and subtle digs at the heartless husband who had just abandoned her. I stared out the window at the rain-streaked city, my heart cold as stone. Will you fall for it, Juliana? Will you accept the comfort of the man who thinks he's your rescuer? Connor set me up in a hotel room, checked in under his name. Stay here for now. Let me know if you need anything, he said, his voice dripping with condescending generosity. Thank you, I mumbled, playing the part of the grateful charity case. The moment he left, I bolted the door and stepped into a scalding hot shower. The water did nothing to warm the chill in my bones. Connor and I were now partners in this. Or rather, I had pushed him onto the front lines to take all the fire while I hid in the shadows. It was dangerous, but for the moment, it was safe. The next 2 days were silent. Juliana didn't call. No angry texts, no threats. The quiet was more terrifying than any fight. What was she planning? Connor called once a day with progress reports. She's much calmer now. We had dinner last night. She still really hurt about you, though. Ethan, you really broke her heart. I could hear the barely concealed glee in his voice. He thought he was winning. I held the phone, a cold smile on my face. Heartbroken? Juliana didn't have a heart to break. She had a calculator. She was figuring out the most efficient way to recapture her prize. Or maybe she was just enjoying the game. On the third night, Connor called, his voice electric with excitement. Ethan, it worked. My heart leaped. What worked? She said yes, he exclaimed. She agreed to be with me. She said, she's going to handle things with you. My mind went blank. It worked. It actually worked. A tidal wave of pure joy washed over me. Freedom. The freedom I had dreamed of, bled for, was finally within my grasp. That's amazing, Connor. Congratulations. My voice was shaking with genuine emotion. But Connor's tone shifted. She said that when it comes to the divorce and the settlement, she wants to talk to you in person. The joy turned to ice. In person, this wasn't a negotiation. It was a trap. The summons had come. I stood in front of the apartment door. My former home. Taking a deep breath, I entered the new code Juliana had sent me. Beep. Access granted. The door swung open. The aroma of roasted chicken filled the air. Juliana, wearing an apron, leaned out from the kitchen, her smile warm and welcoming. Ethan, you're back. Go wash up. Dinner's almost ready. I made all your favorites. The scene was so grotesquely domestic, it felt like a nightmare. As if the fight in the storm, my disappearance, had never happened. Connor was sitting on the living room sofa. He gave me a nod, the magnanimous victor. I walked to the dining table. It was laden with food. Sure enough, everything I loved most. She remembered every preference, every allergy, every secret indulgence. And she knew exactly how to use them to bait the most beautiful traps. Sit, Ethan, she said, untying her apron. The three of us sat down to the most surreal meal of my life. Ethan, Juliana said, placing a piece of chicken on my plate. It must have been hard for you these past few days. My throat felt like sandpaper. It was fine. Connor told me everything. She glanced at him, her eyes softening. Thank you for looking after him. Of course, Juliana, Connor said, puffing up his chest. She nodded, then her gaze returned to me. About us. She began, her voice quiet. I've made my decision. My heart was in my throat. Connor sat up straighter. I think. She looked down, her long lashes casting shadows on her cheeks. We should go our separate ways. She said it. She actually said it. The relief was so immense, I felt dizzy. Free. I was actually going to be free. Okay, I said, my own voice sounding strangely calm. Juliana slid a file folder across the table. This is the divorce agreement. The assets are divided according to the law. And she paused, glancing at Connor. He jumped in immediately, his voice magnanimous. The money I promised you will be wired to your account separately. The check. My check. I picked up the pen, my hand perfectly steady, and signed my name on the last page. Clean, sharp, no hesitation. It was done. Juliana looked at me and smiled. Not a sad smile or an angry one. It was a strange, unsettling smile of satisfaction. She stood up. Well, since it's settled, let's have one last meal together. I made it myself. She began to serve the soup. First Connor, then me. As she placed the bowl of my favorite creamy tomato soup in front of me, her fingertips brushed the rim of the bowl. Tap, tap, tap. 3 distinct, quiet taps. The exact same rhythm she'd used in the restaurant, when she tapped my jacket pocket with the check inside. My blood froze solid. My head snapped up to look at her. She was already back in her seat, smiling at me over her own bowl. Her eyes were clear, sparkling, but they were asking a question. Is the game over? Or is it just beginning? Those 3 taps echoed in my head. A reminder. She was always in control. I barely tasted the food. Every spoonful of soup felt laced with poison. Connor, meanwhile, was on top of the world, basking in the glow of his victory, already acting like the man of the house. He had no idea about the deadly currents flowing just beneath the surface. His blissful ignorance was his greatest protection and his greatest vulnerability. After dinner, I couldn't get out of there fast enough. I'm going to pack my things, I said. Juliana nodded, still seated at the table. Okay, your passport and the check are in the study drawer. She paused. The code is the date we first met. My heart twisted. She remembered everything. I practically ran to the study. I opened the drawer. There they were, my ID, my passport, all my essential documents. And beneath them, the check. That cold piece of paper felt white-hot in my hands. Freedom. Real, tangible freedom. I swept everything into my backpack, zipped it up, and turned around. Juliana was standing in the doorway, watching me. I had no idea how long she'd been there. Her expression was placid. No anger, no sadness. Nothing. It was like looking at a stranger. It was more terrifying than any screaming match. "I'm all packed," I managed to say. She nodded. "Travel safe. No pleading. No threats. Just a light, airy travel safe." I gripped the straps of my backpack, digging my nails into my palms. I walked past her. She could have stopped me. She didn't. She simply stepped aside, giving me a clear path to the door. It felt like a pardon, a dismissal. I walked to the door, put on my shoes, and put my hand on the doorknob. I glanced back one last time. She was still standing in the doorway of the study, a slender silhouette against the light. She gave me a tiny, almost imperceptible smile. Then she turned and walked back into the living room, toward the man who was about to become her new prey. I wrenched the door open and ran. The elevator descended. I watched the numbers fall. Ding. First floor. I burst out of the building and into the cool night air. I hailed the first cab I saw. The airport. As fast as you can. As the car pulled away, I watched the apartment building shrink in the rearview mirror, its lit windows like a single cold, unblinking eye. Was I really free? A year later, a small, humid city on the Gulf Coast. I owned a small bookstore called the Safe Harbor. I had a lazy orange cat named Gus. Life was quiet, slow. No frantic calls demanding my location. No pre-approved itineraries. No more analyzing every word, every glance. I could sleep in, read for hours to the sound of distant seagulls, and laugh as Gus knocked over a stack of paperbacks. This was freedom. The freedom I had purchased with 7 years of my life. It was worth it. I had invested the money from the check wisely. The bookstore didn't make much, but it was enough. I was learning how to be a normal person again, how to live in the sun. Then, one afternoon, I was scrolling through the news on my phone. A headline from a financial journal popped up. Tech wunderkind Connor, Hayes hospitalized for mental breakdown. Hayes corp stock plummets amid hostile takeover rumors. The photo was grainy, taken from a distance. A man in hospital pajamas, his face blurred, looking gaunt and empty as he was helped by 2 orderlies. It was Connor. My fingers went numb. The phone slipped from my grasp. I knew this was coming, but seeing it, the impact was still sickening. He didn't make it out. The comment section was a predictable mess. Heard he got taken to the cleaners by some woman. Worse than that, she bankrupted him and his family. Word is she vanished with half his fortune. Some women are just poison. Poison. I shut off my phone and walked to the window, looking out the calm ocean. She wasn't poison. She was a black hole. Connor thought he could conquer it. Instead, it had swallowed him whole. From the highest shelf in my office, I took down a locked metal box. Inside was the cash check and a small journal. I flipped to the last page, to the only entry, written the day I left. Don't look back. I picked up a pen, and underneath I wrote, in firm, heavy strokes, "Thank you for taking my place." A few days later, an anonymous package arrived. The return address was smudged. Inside, there was only a letter. The handwriting was erratic, a desperate scrawl. "Ethan, if you're reading this, I don't know if I'm still. I was wrong. We were all wrong. She's not an angel. She's a monster. A complete and utter psychopath." The pen had torn through the paper here. She built me a perfect world, and then she burned it to the ground. She tracks everything. My calls, my emails. The apartment. It's a prison, just a bigger one. She won't let me say your name. When I do, she gets sad. You don't want to see her sad. She said, Ethan was so much better. So obedient. She said, she's going to find you. Bring you back. Help me, Ethan, for what I did for you. Why I took on. Help me. The paper was stained with something, tears or medicine. The last few lines were barely legible. Run. Never. Let her find you. She's coming. I can hear her footsteps. The letter just ended. No signature. Just pure, undiluted terror, seeping through the page and into my fingertips. I stood there for a long time. Outside, the sun was shining. Gus purred, rubbing against my leg. A perfect, peaceful day. I walked to the paper shredder and fed the letter into it. The machine whirred, chewing the words into meaningless confetti. I'm sorry, Connor. I can't save you. I can only save myself. 3 months later, a small, quiet town in northern Norway, a place you'd struggle to find on a map. No extradition treaty. The air is cold, and the people keep to themselves. It's perfect. With a new identity, I rented a small cabin by a lake and opened an even smaller bookstore. I kept the name, the Safe Harbor. Hardly any tourists came through, especially not American ones. Life was as still and silent as the frozen lake. I learned how to make mulled wine and watch for the northern lights. Gus got fat and happy. I thought I had finally, truly, escaped. Until today, the afternoon sun streamed through the shop window. Gus was asleep on a pile of books. I was behind the counter, dusting off old hardcovers. A small bell above the door chimed. A customer. I looked up. It was a woman, bundled in a heavy parka, a scarf pulled up high. Her face was obscured by a wool hat pulled down low. She looked like she might be Asian, a stranger. I went back to my work, offering a quiet velkommen in my clumsy Norwegian. She didn't browse. She walked straight to the counter and stopped in front of me. I had to look up again, putting on a polite, professional smile. She spoke in English, her voice clear, with a hint of curiosity. Excuse me, I was wondering if you had. Her voice was lovely, but the moment she spoke, my heart seized in my chest. That cadence, that specific, lilting intonation, it sounded just like Juliana. The blood turned to ice water in my veins. Every muscle in my body locked up. My mind was a blizzard of white noise. All I could do was stare at the shadow under the brim of her hat. I didn't hear the rest of her question. The only sound in the universe was the frantic, panicked drumming of my own heart. She seemed to be waiting for an answer. She tilted her head slightly. The shadow shifted, as if, in the next second, she would reveal her face. End.